Okay, good afternoon. It's a great honor. So first of all, as a French guy, I must apologize for my accent, but because I am in Spain, I think that you could understand it, because every time I am in foreign country, there is some accent, but in French, we are not very famous for our ability to speak foreign language, so we will try our best. Anyway, it's a great honor for us to be here with you. And I would like first to thank MIS company in general, with a special thanks for Doron and Elad for all of their great support and also bringing me in this history. And also, it's a great honor to share this everyday dentistry with my precious partner, Hilal.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I hope that what we want is to share with you what can be everyday dentistry with only two special cases. So, as a dentist, as a teacher, we believe that everyday dentistry has to follow some precise keyword. Every day has to be aesthetic, has to be simple, and has to be guided. Guided is probably one of the most important keywords if you want to have a predictable dentistry. If you are not guided, sometimes you will have the skill and you will have the talent, but sometimes you can have a failure. If you are guided, you reduce this important factor. Also, if you want to follow that kind of dentistry, we need to have easy everyday dentistry. Easy means something which is popular. So for that, we need to use some pop concept, which means concepts that everybody is able to follow. Because if only 1% of this room will be able to follow us, I think that we won't get the target of that kind of event. We need to share dentistry, whatever is the level, but we need to share it. And also, of course, what are today's challenging as a dentist? If I have to work on tooth, one of the first challenges is just to know, do I have to prep? Do I have to go for prepless, or do I have to go for no prep? But most part of the contemporary dentistry has to be focused on the prepless. No prep is very trendy, is very sexy, but it's only probably 1% of my daily practice, and I have to suffer a lot to place, to stabilize, to do it in the lab, and to make the cementation. So most part of that will be focused on the prepless. But if I go back in the implant field, what are the challenging? The challenging is just to know if this case is an easy case or a complex case. And as you can see the whole day with all of this incredible lecture, when you are in the aesthetic zone, it's difficult to find an easy case. Most part of the time, you have to go in an interdisciplinary approach in order just to try to get the best result, because the expectation of the patient is very high. But sometimes, mainly in the posterior area, we can go for a basic dentistry. So that's why we will present two cases will be related to these two different levels. So the first cases will be a basic level of implantology, but we will relate it to the wound dentition. And as all the dentists, we have to take care about the wound dentition. You know why? Because this is the new decay. This is the decay of the 21st century for us as a dentist. Because decay is something that will disappear. This is what we hope. So of course that we will have some new issue and we will have to face it. So the question is how we can face it. And of course, when you have to treat some young patient, what is the challenging? Especially when you are faced with some anorexia, bulimia patient. The challenging is about biology, is about function, and more than this, because this is one of the most motivating factors for the patient, is about aesthetic. So this means that we need to find a solution, but in a delicate way. But the problem is, how can we balance? How can we go in the functional field with playing with the delicate dentistry, with the minimal invasive concept? And this is, I think, the most important issue, and this is what we want to share as a first clinical situation. Of course, what we want is to improve the smile, to enhance the smile, and for that we need to lengthen, but you can't lengthen just by this. You lengthen by thinking about the function. We need to think as an architect, not only as an aesthete. This means that you need to create the functional condition to allow the incisal line just to be more prominent. And this is the way to go. Otherwise, we will face some failure. So, of course, if we look at the literature, there is many articles, beautiful articles since more than 8 years. But most of the articles agree about the fact that we need, in most part of the case, to increase the video, but not for aesthetic reasons. We will increase the video only, in most part of the case, to reduce the biological cost of our treatment. In another word, if I increase the video, I have not to cut, because I will create some space for free, biologically speaking, if I can say that. So, of course, the first methodology came from Mauro, and Mauro, nobody has to discuss about his clinical point of view. But Mauro, even Mauro who loves the prosthetic traditional point of view, means crown, is playing with monolithic with a reduced thickness of restoration. Then you have the Swiss team from Francesca Vailati with the sandwich approach. But if the concept is very nice and it was a new way to understand that we can plug 2 pieces instead of 1, the feasibility of the concept is not always easy access. And as I told you in introduction, if something is not simple, it's not very easy to follow it. So the third way was something that we share with my dear and precious friend Galip about the full mock-up concept, which means that we will take the knowledge of the mock-up and we will directly play it, but not only for aesthetic reason. We will play for a full, it means that it will be as well an aesthetic mock-up and as well a functional one. This will mean that we will get in a second, in 2 minutes, sorry, we will get already the final outcome of the design and of the function. And of course, at the moment you have all of this precious information, then it becomes easy because we have the GPS, so we can go on automatic pilot. And of course, this is what we publish now, because we want to just simplify some everyday dentistry, even if we have to face some difficult case like this. So we had only 4 steps, and for every step mean 1 appointment. And this is, I think, the way to get that kind of treatment predictable. And the first step is just to give to Hilal the precious data. What do we need as the data? We need the pictures, we need the cast, we need, of course, just by playing with freehand composite, the position of the incisal edge, and we need to record the face references in order to draw, to draw directly on the model what will be the interpupillary line and the medium axis. And more than this, we will have to create by ourselves with some composite and with some jig, we will have to create, some new videos that we want to transfer to Hilal in order to let him produce the future. Because at the end, this is what we are looking for. And of course, one of the issues is to be able to transfer this full wax-up inside the mouth in only 1 set. And the question is, we play with the template made from the 3D printed, and then we have, at the same time, as I told you, an aesthetic mock-up and also a functional mock-up with a very precise accuracy, thanks to the 3D printed, because it is very strong and there is no flexibility of the device. So third, now it's time to work, which means that if I have the future front me, my only concern, the first concern as a dentist will be, okay, how deep will be my cut? And once you have this, you will be able to control through the mock-up that you will allow 0.5 millimeter, even as well for the buccal laminate and as well for the functional laminate. And this is a way, to cut, because it will be, an easy way to play, to cut through, in order just, to be sure that we will be able to control. I told you in introduction, if something is not guided, it will be difficult to do it every day. You will do it something great just by chance, but not every day. And what we are looking for is some predictable concept. Otherwise, it will be difficult to follow us. So then, Once you understand this guided preparation, of course, the second concern is the design. Okay, I know how deep. Now I need to know which kind of design that kind of functional laminate will have. And this is how we went from the traditional design from overlay, which is very high in terms of biological cost, to that kind of tabletop design which will preserve the marginal ridge. And because we preserve the marginal ridge, we have only an axial loading at the restoration. This means that we will be able to reduce the thickness because just of a mechanical loading. And according to some histological and from microscan study, we know that when we reduce 0.5 millimeter, of course, this is a good way to preserve the enamel. And also, we did some in vitro study to know and to understand if it works to compare this. It was just a fracture-resistant test in order to see if there is or not differences. And of course, there is no differences. Why? Because the moment you keep the nature is always stronger than the material. So then we go for a prepless approach, and then we have to think a little bit about the choice of the material, and this is probably what Hilal wants to share with us.
Yes, absolutely. When I receive the model, I calculate the VDO and I calculate the space between what we all need to go through on it. So, for example, for the vertical dimension of occlusion, we have very nice space for creating the palatal emergence profile for the restorations as a occlusally as a functionally. As a aesthetically, if we need to go very fast, we can use the digital design and digital machine milling technology to produce our restoration in an easy way. Because sometimes we exaggerate a little bit more to do very nice, elegant restorations on the palatal side to do what? I have the fillings in my mouth since many years. It looks like a grayish amalgam. It needs to be removed. Yes, I know, but sometimes we didn't take care that much on the palatal occlusal area. Sometimes we choose the material because of the elasticity. Sometimes we choose the material because of the space what we have on the occlusal area. It could be your choice. It could be some kind of hybrid blocks, which is reinforced with the zirconium dioxide. It could be very nice, the composite materials. But in advance, we have to take care about the final outcome. It needs to be polished very well. It needs to be function very well. Also, we would like to see a little aesthetic on the cuspids. For example, on the screen, you can see very nice material, which looks like an opalescence material. If you use 0.5, less than 0.5 thickness with the composite materials, it looks awesome. It looks perfect. And when you place on the tooth, it absorbs all the colors, like a chameleon effect. But on the other hand, you cannot polish very well very thin composites. You can just apply the composite materials to create the shiny surface all over. But at the other hand, if you have a very thin layer of the ceramics, you can polish with the glazing procedure in the oven much easier. So this is the restoration which we do with the composite at the palatal site with the blocks, with the milling machine. And we apply veneers on the buccal part always with the Emax, like a lithium disilicate material, for achieving much nicer aesthetical approach. And then, this is the final result for sure. We have to cut very short for talk more about the implantology and the implant technology. And we use the Emax LTA1 to create nice surface texture and nice high value mimic on the labial side.
Okay, one of the discussion can be about the functional part. We can discuss, but for the aesthetic part, for me, there is no discussion. We need to keep in the field of the ceramic. So the question of the cementation has to be simplified by gluing at the same time both restoration in order to create a good homogeneity and also to reduce some clinical step. And of course, after just 1 week healing, you can see just some nice and interesting integration. And the last point concerning the upper arch, when everything is done, now we have to take care about the lower. And as you saw, as an introduction of the case, we had two miss premolar. And that's why, following our traditional concept, we had to replace both of them by using some implant, and if it's possible, using implant which follow all the delicatessen of the concept that we already use from now, which means that using an implant which will allow to have more bone on the buccal part. And one of the important clinical aspects of this use is just to be sure that the flat part will be parallel to the buccal bone in order to allow just the bone to come to the implant instead of the opposite effect. So this is what everybody here is looking for, and this is, I think, a very nice and new improvement. So one of the questions is it just an implant for the superb central incisor, or this is an everyday implant? And as far as I am concerned, I use only one system for every day in every kind of indication, and I think that this is one of the strong impacts of this new V concept. So after that, of course, we have the question of the selection of the restoration, and we wanted in the spirit, as Victor nicely did this morning, just to explain why and where to do and what to select. And one of the first things that we have to take care before selecting the type of restoration is to know which height in the buccal part, not in the proximal part. What is the thickness of the tissue? And from that, we will be able for sure to select the height of the collar in order to be sure that we will allow the prosthetic design to create the right and proper pressure.
Yeah. As a dental technician, we always would like to have the very close connection with our dentists while we are doing our restoration. Especially for the implant restorations, we need to know which kind of restoration we need to do and which kind of height we need to apply. Usually, we do a lot of mistakes in the laboratories. We do the mistakes to choose wrong titanium base. As a height, as a shape, it's very crucial. It's very important to choose the correct one, especially when you have a very the small space for choosing the correct gingival level. We need to consider to talk with the dentists to create sometimes more soft tissue value, or we need to speak as an aesthetical way to solve any other problems. For example, on this case, we choose not a tie base, from the standard tie base from the companies. We can choose the tie base which you can use zirconium dioxide core on it. Especially for me, the difference is, if I go manually, it's better to apply wax or composite onto this titanium base. You know why? Because there is more antirotative part on the surface. And these antirotative parts on the surface allows us to control the wax or composite more precisely. Otherwise, it would be very shame to follow the rules when you use the regular tie bases. Look, this is the regular tie base. And we have a very small antirotative part on the surface. To me, it's like a joke to do something, some restorations, some wax or some composite manipulation on the surface. I have to block out all the antirotative, the retention parts. The white part is the blockouts. When you need to block out the surface, you have to block out behind the antirotative parts also to remove the wax or composite much easier. When you block out these three parts, you have almost nothing. So imagine you will going to put the wax into the muffle, and you expect very precise restorations which you can cement on the tie base carefully. It's like a dream for me. For that reason, I try to go with the other tie bases, which is also created for already produced zirconium base, zirconium cores. So we like to use Emacs on top of the zirconium dioxide. I'd like to share with you some of my experience with the Emacs Press Multi. It's very easy material. You just need to polish, you just need to shape and polish, and you can stain a little bit and ready to go. I believe the simplicity, as far as it's simple, as much as simple as it is, it should be much more healthier for the soft tissue, I guess. So we can choose, as I say, we can choose also the traditional way. On the software area, you can divide the framework, you can divide the abutment side and veneering side in the software, and you can produce everything on digitally. The precision, the fits can be questionable, but on the fit on the tie base always the same because it's already created by the production. So if I go digitally, I choose tie base from the company. If I go manually, I choose tie base from the company which is produced for zirconium dioxide based. And also we have the other options. We can use the zirconium dioxide technique, which we can press on the zirconium dioxide core. It's called ZirPress, and it's very easy. You can lower down the value much easier than you are layering. You can use very high translucent material to cover up all over the surface of the zirconium dioxide frame. So you just wax it after the, for sure, Zirliner procedure, and then you apply your pressing technology. It's also simple. And the fourth option, which you are so limited about the customized restoration, customization of the restoration, you just need to level the soft tissue area and then produce your restoration and directly top of the titanium base. As we limit it, we have to create nice the color or maybe the emergence profile.
So one of the issues with the screw retain restoration is that we have to mask the screw hole. And for that, we play with some flowable dentin, and we cover it just by some basic bulk composite. So then, this is the final emergent profile and the final X-ray restoration. And of course, after just playing in every area, we finalize the lower arch for the function with some laminate in order just to get an ideal design with a very low biological cost, which is, I think, one of the most important challenges that we are faced every day. So this was, for us, the first case that we wanted to share. The second case comes back to the aesthetic zone, and I think that it's much more challenging, especially when the initial situation is like this. And of course, one of the questions is, okay, we have some inflammation, we have some history, she is young, and she has a lot of expectation for an aesthetic point of view. But I think that as a dentist, the question is about the pink, because there is no special issue concerning the bone, the volume, the placement of the implant. So the question is about the pink. How can we follow the ideal pink? We know that we can design that case just by designing the ideal white, and then from that, the question is, do we need to use some natural pink by grafting, or do we need to go for artificial pink, that it was already published by all our dear colleagues? So this is, I think, that's the question that we need to know. So what is the argument that we need? Is it or not a very severe case? If this is a severe case, you know from the scratch that it's not useful for you to let your patient follow your surgical marathon with no predictable final results. So that's why, in that cases, we went from a natural concept of grafting because the case is not severe. So that's why one of the first things was to try to create from scratch, to create just a design, the design what we expect. And we can discuss about the digital bank of shape, we can discuss about whatever you want, but I will tell you easily what happened in that case. The day after the appointment with that patient, I saw another patient. And when she smiled, she has this beautiful architecture. And I said, this case, I want this for that case, basically. And then what I did, I took a pictures and I sent the pictures to Hilal and I say, this is what we have to follow.
So then I received the...
It's true, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I was really shocked the similarity of the case. When I saw the picture that you sent me, I always realized that suddenly I'd like to put these pictures into the mouth of her and on the anterior area to see is it correct or not, and which kind of gingival height we need, where should be the white and where should be the pink. And for that reason, you have to go to YouTube and you can go and check how to merge the...
Tomorrow you will have a beautiful lecture from to explain how we play digitally. So I think that we have not to spend time for that.
Yeah.
All of the experts of the DSD and all the digital story will be there. So I don't want to take this place. It's not my hot topic, so I'm not stressed for that.
Yeah.
And then, from this final outcome, the question is, okay, now how can we play? And in this case, it's nice because we did it fully digitally. So this means that from an initial scan, I sent the STL files to my precious Hilal, and this is how the lab story started. So we scan it, and of course, now we have to travel, but not by plane, but just by network.
So, when I receive the restorations through the STL files, I'll go to my friends. I have very nice friends, very close of my friends placed next to my lab, and he has very nice printed machine. We can print out all the scanners data like STL files in a good quality. So it's a good advantage for me to create restoration through the printing technology, and I create very fast models without any surface texture on it. So what it creates, what it led me to see it, I can calculate the measurement of the distal to distal, and I can see through the picture, and I can make the angulation, and I can make the calculation. You will be able to see tomorrow in other lectures how to control and how to design the smile on the 2-dimension to 3-dimension. So I try to calculate where is the pink part starts and where is the white part needs to be start, and according to this information, I need to grind back these 2 anterior incisors because it will need to be extracted, as he says to me. So remove the 2 central incisors to achieve nice emergence profile according to the measurements on the pictures. So I remove the central incisors. I start to do the waxing to create nice emergence profile to just focus on the morphology, not focusing on the correct emergence profile, because emergence profile we're going to create it by the Stefan Kubi in the chair side. I just create the nice and good shape and the dimension of the restoration. And then we scan this restoration, and we scan the surface of the soft tissue area, which can create the pontic area. And this 4 anterior restoration needs to be taken care by my friend, my dear friend in France, Mr. Stefan Kubi, to shape on the surgical side.
Okay, so now the files travel again, and this comes back in Marseille, and we have, just to resave the STL file, and we mill it directly in order, to get a proper ideal design. So that's the day of the extraction, and directly, we have to place our project. And when you look at if you just take care of the white and you don't take care of the pink, of course there is some discrepancy. And all the effort that we have to make is just to try to fulfill with some natural pink all of this empty space. And as I told you, Hilal, produced some on the design. This is the initial cervical line of the canine, and this is some additional and the outcome of the new cervical line that we want. This means that we will use this, not a mock-up, this project as a precise guide for making the surgery. And I think that this is a simple way to know exactly where you have to go. And then this is the time for the placement of the implant. So at the same time, of course, we have to place the implant to make some xenograft to replace the hole in the alveolar, and then also to place the temporary with already the ideal design, without loading at that time, because I'm not confident when half of my mesial part of the implant is only supported by a xenograft and not by the initial bone. So this is just some basic security, because I love the seat belt in everyday dentistry. So this is how we are playing just by with this V. What we love, is the implant driver, because exactly on the implant driver, in the flat part is exactly in the right position. So it's some small things, but at the end, it's very precious to be able to play with that kind of simple tool. And then, of course, the day of the surgery, this is just after the surgery, the patient was able to leave the office like this. But I can tell you that she called me back just 24 hours, just me, I wanted to know how she is, and she was shocked by just the new appearance and the confidence of that. Because she told me, everybody told me that it's huge, of course, because everybody around you is used to see you with a lot of space. And of course, now we have to modify it. And the good things was, as I told you, 2 weeks post-op, it was with the temporary number 1. So we had a good healing, but not perfect, but it's normal at that kind of things. But even at that time, already, by playing with some flowable composite, we create, the ideal pressure on the gum to let her follow this white design. And then, 4 months later on, we have, a new design, and we connected our temporary with some temporary abutment in order just to try to load our implant. And this is how it was, and this is how it is. And of course, the most important things, and this is what we learned the whole day, it started from the lecture of Nitsan and until the lecture of Eric, the pink has to be driven by the white. This is something which is mandatory today, and this is how we have to think. And 1 month later on, then we connected with some multi-unit abutment. Why? Because this is the easiest way. We prefer screw retain restoration. And the axis was okay because I told you that there is no bone issue. So of course, we continue to improve the design by playing with some flowable restoration in order to let, the papilla comes down. And this is what we tried to do until, a couple of weeks. And then it was the day of the impression. And of course, for the impression, we have 2 options, a digital way or an analogy or a conventional way. And we selected that one. And then, Hilal, it's your turn.
Yeah. When I receive the impression, I have to create my gingival mask. As a dental technician, I like to use hard tissue imitation on my model because I can carve, I can shape it much easier than soft tissue imitation. So I used some kind of resin material to create the soft tissue material. As he says, as Mr. Kubi says, we have 2 options to receive. We can receive the analog like a traditional analog to create our model, or we can receive the analog which is already show the switch platform for multi-units. Actually, we prefer to go to place the multi-unit into the mouth, and then he take the impression through the multi-unit to give me an analog looks like a multi-unit. So I work on directly the multi-unit analogs to create my models, and then it's the most important work starts. First, I need to know where to create my pressure area. I need to know where to carve, where needs to be let it grow. So to creating this, to making this timing, I have to apply the pencil and the mark carefully to area which I need to remove. Then I start to remove by very delicate burrs to shape it carefully under the microscope. Actually, on the naked eyes, it doesn't work. We need to focus on the surface of the gingiva under the microscope to have a precise and smooth surface. And then we need to polish carefully, because it will be the negative effect of our restoration. If you like to have a nice, precise and smooth surface behind the pontic area, we need to polish and we need to take care of the gingival mask very well. So, which kind of scanning technology we have to use? If you have a Sirona, won't work. So, you have to find the scanner like the software like Exocad, which can scan directly through the scan bodies. The process is extremely simple. Put the scan bodies on the model, scan it, and put it into the software, much easier, and shape it a little bit to control the emergence profile, and start to mill on wherever you want, and any other milling machine. In this case, we use the new Wieland blocks, which is a very translucent material, which is lifelike material. And before doing the sinterization, I like to check the quality of the screw access. This is the needs to be checked carefully. In the laboratory, if you have a dust on the surface of the screw retain area, it will going to create failure. Because when you have some points, which is highlighted points, when you try to screw in the zirconium dioxide into the titanium base, you will have fracture, for sure. It needs to be clean as much as possible, because when you do the zirconium dioxide milling in the unit, dust is everywhere. Just be careful. So, and then before sintering, I start to stain a little bit to give a more lifelike imitation on the zirconium dioxide. It's very translucent material like the Emax MO. And after the staining, we receive very nice varnish effect on the surface of the restoration. As you can see here, we have very, very nice outcome from the machine. The fit, you can see your own eyes. On the model, as you can see, we didn't touch anything internally. This is the restoration. It's come out from the furnace directly. And as you can see on the movie, you can see more details. I was really happy to have this kind of software and this kind of technology very close to my lab. And when I received the restorations, I was flying. So then I need to control the value of the zirconium dioxide. Even it's extremely translucent, there is a problem with the zirconium dioxide about the value control. To control the value, I apply one small layer to lower down the value immediately. This mixture helps me to catch the shade guide value at the first layer. And then I start my layering on the surface of the restoration. And I keep going to layer. I do my surface texture, and I check the color after the surface texture, because surface texture changed a lot of things. So we have to be hurry because we are out of time.
So
right
then
now.
I resave the present, the beautiful present from Hilal, and of course, by following the design, slowly and slowly, we have just to screw and to cement. And of course, is it a perfect case? No, of course it's not a perfect case, but the story, just go back. Yes, that one. Yeah. So the story is not about the ideal or not case. The question is more about how was it, as Eric said in a very clear way, how was the initial situation and where we are today. And I think that this is just what we try to improve by playing with only some soft tissue grafting, which is not so important, And I think that this is an easy way to modify completely the smile line of the patient and the outcome. Mr. President, can I have just 20 seconds additionally, if you don't mind? I know that it's important, but it's just to finish with beauty. And of course, what I would like just to let you understand is the new convexity that we get just by grafting some pink, and also this is just some new appearance, because at the end, the wellness and the confidence of the patient is probably one of the most precious key factors for that kind of cases. And if I have to conclude, I would like just to share with you to exchange your daily dentistry with us on our platform, which is Tale Italiano, because the aim of that is to share everyday dentistry with some movie cases, and soon we will be able to launch a lot of new satellites, because this is what already exists, and this is what we will launch very soon with all my precious friends. And I think that this is an important improvement for the community. Because if we have to resume, the DNA of this company is make it simple. So I try with all of this, we will stay and we have to be simple. So thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.